From safari adventures and travel updates to conservation and humanitarian stories, this is Africa Revealed, bringing you the heart and soul of East Africa. Now, here's your host, Dr. Matt Jensen.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Dr. Matt Jensen once again, and thanks for joining us again. I am enjoying this journey that we're taking as you are thinking about or planning your trip to Africa. I'm excited about today's episode because this is where I'm going to answer a bunch of your questions, as today's episode is called The 5 Questions That Everyone Asks Before Going on Their First Safari. So if you haven't been on a safari, but you're planning on one, or you've booked one and it's coming up, or you're just interested in what it's going to be like, this is the episode for you. And I'm excited to share some of my own experiences, but I'm excited also to bring to you answers that so many of you have when you're thinking about going on your safari. So I've taken literally hundreds of questions from travelers and clients, and I get asked these questions in one shape or another almost every time. So here we go. Question number 1. Matt, when we go on a safari, how close do we actually get to the animals? And then they'll say, do I need binoculars? What kind of camera do I need? Well, here's the thing. You're going to get extremely close to the animals. When you come on your safari to East Africa and you visit the national parks and reserves, these national parks and reserves don't have any, if minimal, fencing or boundaries. So the animals can kind of come and go. They truly are in their natural environment. When I say the word reserve or national park, this doesn't mean that they've been corralled or herded or placed. This is their land, and we are guests in their land. And the parks and the reserves are titled that way to preserve and protect these amazing animals in their natural environment. So yes, you get extremely close to them. In fact, you'll notice, or you'll know when you're on safari, that the roads aren't the best well kept. And that's because the National Park Services are trying to keep the natural environment as unaltered as possible. So while it might seem like a good idea to plow the roads a little bit more, and yes, the bumpiness can get a little bit out of hand, they really are trying to make as little of a footprint as possible in these animals' natural environments. So the roadways, they've been there for 100 years or more. So the animals are used to the roadways. They're used to safari vehicles, so they're not spooked. They're not bothered. In fact, as several of my guide drivers explain, the animals look at the safari vehicles as just another big animal, and it never hurts anybody, right? And so they don't get scared, so they don't run off. But if you get too close or there's too much noise, it'll spook them just like anything would us if we got too close to an object or something. And so your guides are typically trying to be very respectful of the animal's space and of their position, because we want to see them in their natural behaviors as well. And so you will get close. In fact, lions oftentimes love to come up close and lay in the shade of the vehicle, which means, well, I don't recommend it, but you literally could almost reach out and pet them. Don't do that. I could get in big trouble. But that's how close you'll get to them many times. Elephants, giraffes, oftentimes like to walk on the roads because it's easier on their feet. There's no sticks, brush, whatever. And so you get close because they like the roadways as much as we do. And of course, there are animals way out in the distance that like to hide. They like to be in the thicker brush, but you will get up close and personal to many of your favorite wildlife animals. Okay, here's another question I get all the time. Am I going to rough it? How primitive are these lodges and camps? Well, the good news is you can literally choose your level of comfort and luxury. I review the different categories of comfort and luxury in a different episode, but I'll just tell you really quickly that most lodges and camps, even depending on which comfort level they are wonderful, and you do not have to rough it if you don't want. None of the safari companies that I'm associated with offer camping safaris. The next level is called budget. Budget means you're in an enclosed tent or an enclosed, when I say tent, I don't mean a pop-up tent. I mean a more permanent type structure tent with a hard floor, real beds, mattresses, bath, sometimes ensuite bathrooms, sometimes not. And usually they'll have a little restaurant to serve the food. But in budget, you're not worried about luxury or comfort. You just want to be there in safety with a nice bed and good food. Then there's mid-range or classic. In wonderful locations, the decor, the immersion into the African culture within the camp or the lodge is usually greater. The food is a little bit higher level, and most people love either the mid-range and classic or the next level, which is luxury. Luxury is getting up there. Again, they're still pretty affordable, but you have much more immersion into the African decor and culture. And typically luxuries have beautiful views and even higher levels of cuisine. And then there's ultra luxury. If cost is no concern, ultra luxury, the sky is the limit. So you can see there's different levels of luxury and comfort, but in most cases, you're going to be very comfortable. You're going to enjoy a nice view. You're going to have wonderful food. Now, let me just quickly tell you what the difference between a safari camp and a safari lodge is. When you're comparing two different comfort levels, for example, mid-range classic versus a mid-range classic lodge versus its camp, mainly the difference is the number of rooms and what the walls are made of. A safari camp is every bit as roomy and luxury and beautiful as a room at a safari lodge. You've got a hard floor in the camps. You've got all of the bathroom amenities, granite, stone, a nice shower, hot water, and a sitting area with a beautiful view. But with a camp, because it's canvas walls, it's a little bit more immersive. You can hear the sounds of the wild. They're wonderful. And because they're a little bit spaced out, most camps only have between 10 and 20 tents, so they do sell out quick. Lodges are typically bigger. They'll have anywhere from 30 to 100 rooms, and the rooms can be a little bit smaller, like a hotel room, or the more luxury you get, the bigger they are and the more beautiful they are. But the quality of decor, whether it's a mid-range camp or a mid-range lodge, is very similar, or a mid-range camp and a luxury camp have very similar qualities when it comes to decor, comfort levels of the bed, and quality of the food and cuisine. And so you have a wonderful experience. What do I like the most? Well, I have favorite lodges and I also have favorite camps, but it's hard to beat going to bed, going to sleep in the wild in a camp where you can hear the sounds of the wild around you. If you want a full, more immersive experience, I would suggest looking at the camps, but not taking anything away from the lodges because they are beautiful and elegant and well appointed as well. So I hope that explains the question of whether you're roughing it or not. Here's another great question. What does a typical day on safari look like? Well, I kind of break that down into three different types of days that you'll have on safari. The first type is either your departure day, your first day on safari, or similarly, a day when you're transferring from one camp or one park and reserve to another location. Those days typically look like this. You'll wake up, you'll have an early breakfast, you'll load your luggage into the safari vehicle, and you'll travel. It could be anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours when you're driving between parks and reserves, between lodge to lodge. You'll typically arrive at your lodge or your camp in time for lunch. The porters and the wonderful staff at your lodges and camps will take your bags to your room for you while you have a wonderful lunch. Usually there's time for a little rest and you'll go on your afternoon safari. And then you'll be back. Most parks or reserves means you have to be back before dark. You'll come back. You'll enjoy a wonderful campfire if the lodge or camp has it, which most of them do, maybe a drink, and then have your dinner, around 7:30 at night. So that's typically what a day looks like when you arrive on your first day or when you are transferring between lodges and camps. And I'll also say many people choose bush flights as their transfers between one camp to another in a different park. But it's kind of the same, even though the transit time is less. You still need to go to the airstrip, load up, fly, be picked up and taken to your lodge. It just means less time on those bumpy roads. So the second type of day is when you're all day or multiple days in one park and one lodge and one accommodation. In that case, you have a choice between two ways to spend your day, which is the second and the third days of a typical day on safari. If you choose to do the first way, you'll have a morning safari. You'll get up, have your breakfast, and you'll go on an early morning safari. Some people leave early at dawn and go on the safari, then come back for breakfast. But most people will have an early breakfast and go on a morning safari, typically returning around 11 o'clock-ish. Plenty of time to get cleaned up, have a wonderful lunch at your lodge, dip in the pool, sit on your balcony, and enjoy a few hours break. And then in the afternoon, around 3:30, maybe 4, you'll go on your afternoon safari, returning back before dark for dinner. So as you've noticed, many of our game drives and activities are done in the mornings and the afternoons because, of course, that's when the animals seem to be the most active. They're like us. When the middle of the day is happening, the temperatures are hotter, the sun is shining, they seek shelter. But I want to be very clear. For those that go on all-day safaris, which is the third way to spend your day on safari, there are still many animals that are to be seen throughout the day. So if you do choose to have a fully immersive day, you want to go deeper into the lodges and camps. The third way is to spend all day on safari, in which case you'll have an early breakfast at your lodge. You can even take breakfast with you. They'll prepare it, so you can just get right on the road. But your guide will also request you to get a box or picnic lunch, and you'll have lunch in your vehicle or at an approved picnic site in the park or reserve area. And so for those that want to go deeper, further into the parks and lodges like the Serengeti, like Tsavo West, like some of these massive parks, you want to go further away, an all-day safari is a great idea, and you'll take your lunch and experience all day in the wild. So these are the 3 typical ways that you'll spend your day on safari. And by the way, there's many other activities you'll have. For example, a hot air balloon ride usually takes place early in the morning. You have to be in that balloon by sunup. So you'll leave your lodge, your camp around 4:30 in the morning. And by the way, the balloon ride companies will give you breakfast after your balloon ride. So then you'll make your way back to your lodge and start on your morning game drive. And so you don't miss out on anything. Other things, like in certain lakes, you can go on a boat safari to see hippos. You can go on walking safaris or guided nature walks. All these are typically done in the mornings or in the afternoons. But in most places, when you are on a private safari, you can decide how to spend your day, and you can plan it each night with your private safari guide. But you can trust his recommendations, as he knows the weather, the animal patterns, and the locations and distances. Next question that we get asked all the time is, when's the best time to go on safari? After all, I want to see the Great Migration. I have a whole other episode on the Great Wildebeest Migration. Well, first of all, let me tell you, going on safari is wonderful 12 months a year. And it's true. I've been there in all the seasons. The animal viewing is spectacular all year long. But let me just go through the seasons. The highest season, or the high season, is typically June or July to September or October. That's the highest season. The Great Migration is taking place in the western Masai Mara and the eastern part of the northern Serengeti, so that attracts a lot of visitors. The mid-range or shoulder seasons are a couple of different months, typically end of October all the way to the Christmas holidays, and then just after the New Year till about March. Those are mid or shoulder seasons. The low season or green season is typically April and May, as East Africa experiences most of their rains, even though, yes, there is some rainy season in East Africa around August or September as well. So as you guessed, higher season means higher prices. Mid-season means mid prices, and low season means some of the best pricing all year long. So when do I recommend you go on safari? Well, first of all, I want you to go when you're able, because I want each of you to have this amazing experience. My favorite time to go is in the mid-seasons, and here's why. The animal viewing is just as beautiful. The weather is a little bit more forgiving. The prices are better and the crowds are lower. So if you can go on your safari between January and March, or end of May into June, many high season rates don't start till July 1st. Those are great months to go. But if you are set on seeing the Great Wildebeest Migration, then you obviously want to go July through October. However, did you know there's another migration season in the southern Serengeti Endutu area, January through March? Again, watch my episode on the Great Wildebeest Migration, because that area is when the calving, all the baby wildebeests are occurring. So you get to see the great herds and the babies. So it's something for you to think about. And that brings us to our last question. How many days should I spend on safari? It makes me sad when I have so many people that reach out and say, hey, we're going to come on safari. And I say, how many days? And they say 4. Now, let me tell you, 4 days on safari is better than no days on safari, but you will wish that you had more time. The sweet spot is somewhere between 9 and 12 days. That gives you fully immersed opportunities to see the big 5, not miss out on animals. The lower number of days that you go, the fewer animals you're going to see, and those elusive leopards or some of the other more elusive animals, you might miss out. 7 days is what I consider the minimum time you should spend in East Africa. After all, you're going to spend a day or two just to get there and a day or two to go home. Why not enjoy the time, especially if you don't know if you're ever going to come back? So my recommendation, and I'll tell you, our most popular itineraries that we sell are between 10 and 12 days. So you can check out, even if you're going with another company, check out their options 10 to 12 days. But let me leave you with this thought. I've never had anybody tell me they wish they would have had a shorter safari. But I get told all the time, I wish I would have spent more time. A safari in East Africa or even Central or Southern Africa is the adventure of a lifetime. And I'm excited to bring you these 5 most common asked questions when you're and others are planning on coming to Africa on a safari. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you found this episode useful. Hey, hit us up on social media. Drop a question in the comments section. I love to read your comments, your questions, and I bring some of them up in the episodes because I want to know what you want to hear about. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as I bring you not only beautiful videos and funny behaviors of animals, but I bring you important travel updates and travel information to help you get the most out of planning your safari. I'm Dr. Matt Jensen. Thanks for joining us on Africa Revealed, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Africa Revealed. Join us again next week as we uncover more of the wildlife, wonder, and stories that make Africa unforgettable. Until then, adventure awaits.